My mother got restraining orders against my father multiple times. He went to jail, he would get back out and continuously harass her. My father went to my mother's house. He forced his way into the home. My brother, he watched as my mother was being murdered by my father. My father was a drug addict, and he had a lot of mental health disorders. He went in and out of jails. The relationship between my father and my mother was definitely strained. I think the relationship was just very tense, very violent, very drug-filled. Essentially, my father was abusing my mother mentally, physically. She got restraining orders. Restraining orders are basically meant to protect the victim. She did everything she was supposed to do, and the courts failed her. When the murder happened, my father went to my mother's house and knocked on the door and was asking to see the children. My mother was saying, "No, I don't want you around me. I don't want you around the kids." And he got upset at that, so he forced his way into the home. I was a little less than a year old. My brother stuck his head out of the doorway, and as the story goes, he watched as my father strangled my mom to death, raped her, then stripped her body naked and shoved her in a closet. People would constantly come over to the house asking where Patricia was, and my father would make up stories. Eventually, a social worker was called to check on the well-being of my mother and her 2 children, only to find my father in a bathtub trying to kill himself. The police came and discovered my mom's body, discovered my brother and my father was booked into the county jail. He was charged with first-degree murder, and within a few months, he ended up taking his own life in a preventative suicide cell. Growing up without parents is difficult. I had adoptive parents, but they weren't my parents. I felt very disconnected from them. One of the reasons why I started sharing my story on TikTok was because I was just hoping maybe I could get my story out and shed some light on the truth of what actually happened. One of the largest changes that I want to see in regards to domestic violence is courts taking accountability and taking some sort of action and not just brushing it under the rug. My father, he went to jail multiple times and he still was able to get out, go to my mother's house, force his way into the home, choke her body, and live with that body for 2 weeks before anybody even had a clue what was going on. And that, to me, is baffling. My father was out of hand, and my mom had to do everything she could within her power to save herself. And ultimately, the courts failed her. Going through any sort of trauma, any sort of violence in life at a young age is difficult. And it takes a strong-minded person to get through hard times. You need to find the help, and you need to find the resources, and you need to reach out, and don't deal with this type of trauma alone. I am seen. Are you?